Hey Steve, it's Brian again. Great to hear back from you and hope you're doing well. Uh, First off, I'll just say I apologize if my voice sounds funny at all. I'm sure you can still understand me, but I've been under the weather the last few days, so um, and if you're wondering, that's why my voice sounds weird. Um, so as for your swing, I just kind of wanted to talk about some stuff simply because you talked about how you wanted to understand your swing versus the swing, and we are working on your swing, not necessarily the swing. Um, but there are a couple of things that I think people um, can misunderstand. Um, and I just kind of wanted to clear up that so that you don't necessarily try to fix something that's not broken. The first thing I will say, though, about your swing is, the more I look at it, the more I think you kind of just have, it looks in the right hand like the grip is just slightly up in your hand. So at first it looks fine, and then the more you wiggle, it just looks like the grip kind of moves slightly up into your hand instead of staying down in the fingers. So I would make sure that when you grip it, that the grip does stay down, pretty much as far down in the fingers as you can get it, because that will help with some of the wrist stuff that I'm going to talk about today. And you can just check that with both hands. Make sure that you don't work it too much into the palm, that it stays down in the fingers. And the left hand doesn't look overly bad or anything, but the more I watch you kind of wiggle here, it looks like it's pretty high up in the right hand. Um, anyway, so if we just look at this and we look at how much forward shaft lane you're carrying into the ball, you actually have a decent amount here. So that's not an issue at all. And a lot of people do think, as long as you get your weight forward and you have enough forward shaft lane, that you're not gonna hit it fat. But unfortunately, there are a couple other scenarios that would cause us to hit the ball heavy, and I think one of them fits you fairly well. And it's something that I've probably alluded to some, but haven't made a huge priority for you. And I think we are going to start to make that a priority for you because, when I'm looking at this, it does look fine. I mean, it looks like you're carrying in a forward shaft lean, and we probably need to look elsewhere so that you're not kind of banging your head into a wall. And for that, I kind of needed the down the line view, so I brought in your last submission. And what I want you to notice is that the club face goes from fairly square to then pointed almost straight down, and the shaft is actually inside your hands a good bit. So the face is down here, and then the shaft is inside your hands. Um, what you're going to have to do from here is start to compensate, and you're going to have to find some way to get some loft on the club and to make sure that the face isn't pointed straight to the left. And what you do is, you start to keep the left arm a little bit in, so it stays across your chest a decent amount, and then the club will be inside of your hands a decent amount on the downswing. And what you'll notice is now that the face is not as close as it was, and that's simply because of what you've done to the angle of the shaft. And you've started to, or when you do that, when you start to do all those compensations, what will happen is that your path will be shifted a decent amount out to the right. And whenever you start to do that, also, you're shallowing out how the club is moving into the ball, and you can shallow it out to the point to where you can have your weight forward and carry in a lot of forward shaft lean, but because the direction is so far to the right and it's so shallow, you can start to kind of run out of space, and you'll start to kind of just clip the grass a little bit early. And again, that's simply because you're coming in fairly shallow. So if you were to think about it, if you were just to kind of raise the club up and down like you were swinging an axe chopping wood, you would never strike the ground early. You would just always come in directly on top of the golf ball. So that would be one extreme. And then if you were to come in super shallow, you would always strike the ground early. So we just kind of need to move you into just a slightly steeper angle of attack here, so that you're not catching it a little bit heavy every once in a while. So how we're going to do that is to start to change your takeaway so that you don't have to make those compensations on the downswing. And if you do, you'll start to hit some big pushes. So by changing how the face works on the backswing, we'll start to change some things that you can do on the downswing. You can start to hit it more solid. So what starts to happen, again, as I've kind of mentioned before, is that club face goes back very shut. And how you do that is that this left wrist will start to kind of roll under the club, and this right wrist will bend straight back towards your forearm. You can see that here in the down the line view, how your left wrist will have this kind of pronounced roll under the shaft like that. And the right wrist is going straight back towards your forearm. So if you were to kind of stick your left hand out in front of you, like you're shaking someone's hand, and then you were to raise just with your wrist the thumb as high as it can go, so it kind of be like just a vertical ascension of the wrist, like a little hinging motion. That's more of what the wrist needs to be doing there, instead of rolling underneath. If you were to think someone like Dustin Johnson, for example. So you kind of flex the wrist instead of just kind of vertically hinging the wrist. So that would be one way to think about it. Biomechanically speaking. The left thumb needs to work more up instead of rolling the hand under. The other way you can think about it is simply by observing what's going on with the club face and the direction that the shaft is pointed when it's parallel to the ground. What we'd like to see here is that the face opens up a little bit more, so the toe will just kind of swing a little bit more open, and that the club works a little bit more up in front of you. So when we get to this point in the swing, instead of the face being pointed straight down and the club being inside of your hands, it would be more even with your hands, and the toe would be a little bit more up. And what I can do is I'll find a picture to show you what it should look like. And then if you want to, instead of worrying about the biomechanics, you can just simply try to copy that picture and feel what it takes to get to that point. But again, essentially it's just going to be less roll under. You're going to have to keep this left wrist a little bit more flat, and you're going to have to feel that left thumb go up more to get the club ascending a little bit faster and to make sure that it doesn't go inside your hands at this point. But that's what I'd like you to work on, is start to work on that takeaway and start to get the club face a little bit better at this point, and then we can make changes on the way down, and honestly they might kind of change themselves, but we should start to make pretty good progress, I would think, almost immediately once you change how the wrists are working. So I hope all that made sense. I know it's slightly difficult. I like to do this stuff in person, sorry, but I think, you know, the way you've tackled everything else, you should be able to get a good grasp on this. It'll take a little bit of tinkering, and then from there you just need to kind of take it slow and work on it without a ball at first, just getting the motion move into a ball, just like you've done with this piece. So again, I think you've done a really nice job. It's just a matter of slightly changing the priority piece at this point. And good luck through practice. Look forward to hearing back from you soon. And if you need to submit a new video a little bit sooner than usual, just to kind of make sure that we're on track with the wrist, that's totally fine. I can make sure that you're doing things you know, the way we want to, and then we can go from there. Look forward to hearing back from you soon. Thanks.